To date, there are many different hypotheses that in ancient times people could somehow rise into the air. Sounds fantastic, of course, but this is only at first glance. Today I would like to take a closer look at this assumption and sort out some possible evidence for that. And in general whether it was possible. Let's understand. The first indirect and for some scientists and at all direct proof of the flights of the ancients are the huge images that are still found in all corners of our planet. They can only be seen from a bird's eye view. On Earth they are not visible. This is one of the oldest mysteries of the past civilization that have reached us a millennium later. For example, images in the Nazca Desert. Scientists still recognize the traces of an ancient civilization about which these same scientists have very vague ideas. Until now they cannot even establish their exact age, and one thing is clear: these images are one of the most mysterious mysteries of ancient civilization. Images in the Nazca Desert were discovered in 1920 when an airplane flew over the Atacama Desert for the first time, lines of which all these drawings are made by removing a thin upper layer of sand. This exposes a lighter lower layer, forming the pattern. Question: how did the ancient uneducated people who have no idea about the exact sciences manage to make such smooth huge drawings while only on the ground? Try to draw a huge 300-meter drawing on the ground without any measuring tools and also without being able to check your calculations from a height that you drew there or not. And here are 12,000 stripes and lines, about 100 spirals, more than 30 huge drawings of animals, birds, fish, insects on an area of 500 meters to all. The lines were obtained by clearing thousands of tons of volcanic pebbles. Many even now cannot draw anything detailed with a pencil on paper. The second question is, why did they need all this? Who from the earth can see all these magnificent images? Traces of the flood can also be traced here. Scientists have come to the conclusion that the Nazca Plateau is part of a frozen mudflow with pronounced tongues descending between the surrounding mountains, which were formed during a powerful tidal wave that struck South America in ancient times. It turns out the drawings were made after the flood. In general, I think if you want to find out what was on this or that territory, ask the locals. This, though with embellished facts and naturally with a share of fiction and legends, but they still give a more detailed and accurate idea of those times than official science. You just need to be able to weed out these same exaggerations invented later. So what do the locals think about the ancient geoglyphs of the Nazca Desert? It turns out that they are sure that these images of unusual people, and demigods who could rise into the air and whom they called Viracocha, are a connoisseur of science and a magician, the owner of terrible weapons, who initiated the Golden Age. Legend has it that the coming is connected with the flood, as a result of which most of humanity died. From all this, it can be concluded that someone from a similar civilization still survived after that. Intelligent people called demigods because of their knowledge come to the ancient Peruvians and lay the beginning of the golden age of a certain cargo cult. But wait, scientists assure us that 4,000, 5,000 years ago people were backward and did not develop in any way. And here the Peruvians are just having a technological boom and they are building grandiose buildings and so on. Gambia is a small African country, a former British colony located on the Atlantic coast of tropical Africa. There is a mysterious airfield Yundum. What is the secret of the airfield, you ask? The fact is that no one built the runway of this airfield. How did it happen? The fact is that she was just already here. The runway consisted of monolithic stone slabs carefully fitted to each other. Local residents claim that these plates were in this place during the construction of the airfield, and the workers only put asphalt on the ancient plates and applied markings. The length of the strip was 3,600 meters and it is capable of receiving any modern aircraft, regardless of their weight and dimensions. The NASA Space Agency took an active part in the construction of the airfield. They chose it as used as a spare airfield for landing space shuttles, since this ancient airfield suited them perfectly. By the way, given that the length of the strip is quite impressive, not all ancient slabs are covered with asphalt. And some of them can be seen both at the beginning and at the end. Well, then it turns out that the landing strip was much more modern. The question remains who took off from it. It is definitely difficult to answer it yet, since no research has been conducted. According to the uncovered asphalt section of the strip, it is clear that the ancient slabs carefully fitted each other perfectly polished surface. And this is a perfectly cut mountain on the previously mentioned Platanasca. Around this mountain there are still disputes about what it is. Skeptics claim that this is a natural formation, although from the previously presented facts we can assume the following: this mountain was cut for wood and laid and polished kilometer-long stone slabs at the ancient airfield Yundum. And there is nothing supernatural here if we assume that the past civilization was not low-educated but on the contrary had high technology and she could quite afford to build airfields for receiving aircraft. This is the Hechi Mountain Airport in China. The Chinese did not bother and just cut off the mountain in order to make a runway. The height of the airport is about 700 meters, very similar to a cut mountain on the Nazca Plateau, isn't it? So maybe the goals were the same. Also, one of the proofs that our ancestors could take to the air on certain aircraft is the mention of them in more than 20 ancient Indian treatises, in which they are referred to as Vimanas. About them, I will not tell in detail, since everyone has already made a video on this topic. Laziness, and I think you know almost everything about them, but we will also take this proof into service. There are also many descriptions of human flight in ancient writings. For example, in the Book of Enoch, two very tall people appeared to Enoch, which he said he had never seen on earth. Do not be afraid, today you will ascend with us to heaven. Enoch told his sons, I do not know where I am going and what awaits me. The aliens took Enoch on their wings and sat him on a cloud, on which he flew higher and higher, saw the air and then reached the ether. It is further said that the Earth astronaut comprehended the circles along which the luminaries pass like the wind, moving forward with incomprehensible speed and not having a day to stop. The angels introduced him to the device in the solar system, showed the calculation. The paths of the sun introduced him to the rotation of the moon. Enoch was taught to read to him heavenly books and forced to write down his impressions himself, and 60 days later he was returned to his homeland to his sons. During the landing there was light and darkness retreated. People looked and did not understand how Enoch was taken. They looked and did not understand how Enoch was taken. Of course, you cannot believe this book and perceive it as a fairy tale, but how in ancient times could people know about the structure of the solar system and also that the moon revolves around the earth? In world folklore, many images of flying vehicles have also been preserved. An air chariot, a flying ship, a wooden eagle, an airplane, and others. Scientists have also found documents indicating that in ancient times people had devices for fully controlled flight. The very first mention of such devices was discovered by historians in the ancient Babylonian Code of Laws of Chalcata, where we read the following lines: driving a flying car is a great privilege. Knowledge about flying is one of the most ancient. It is a gift of the gods in ancient times intended to save lives. This is followed by a detailed description of the flight in the opening view from above, and this is 2.400 years BC. In the Chronicles of Nepal, there is also a mention of flying by people there. It is mentioned that the secrets of flight have long been known to the peoples of advanced to light-skinned people from the Mediterranean coast. Ancient astronomical discoveries of thousands of years ago by the priests of the African people of Dagana still drive ethnographers and paleoastronomists crazy. In 1931, in the south of Mali, from the outside world, the Dogons from generation to generation, from father to son, transmitted ancient astronomical knowledge about which modern science only guessed at that time. They were fully aware of the structure of the solar system, planets that can only be seen in powerful telescopes, also in detail about the satellites of Saturn, but who taught this Dogons? The Dogons themselves also tell about the white gods descending from heaven, exactly the same legends, and there are practically in every nation. It makes no sense to list them. Touch any one and you will find the same mention of certain gods who descended to earth at the present time. There is every reason to believe that perhaps in the distant past the previous civilization possessed colossal knowledge and could not only easily extract and process huge chunks of rock but also rise into the air on devices much heavier than air.